All right, ready to dive into Bitcoin. You sent in a really interesting collection of articles for this.
Yeah, you've got like the whole spectrum here.
We've got Bitcoin basics, of course, investing, mining, even some stuff about like the environmental impact.
It's a lot of questions, it seems.
Yeah, it seems like you want to understand not just what Bitcoin is, but why it matters.
Right.
Maybe even if it's something you should consider.
Let's start with the basics, I guess.
Sure.
One of the articles describes Bitcoin as digital gold, but honestly, that still sounds kind of cryptic to me.
I get it. It's a totally new concept.
Yeah.
So let's break it down. Imagine like a digital coin that's scarce.
Okay.
There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoins. No government or bank controls it. It relies on this technology, blockchain.
Ah, the blockchain. That's the part that always makes my head spin.
Think of it like a shared Google Doc,
Okay.
but for recording Bitcoin transactions. So every time someone sends or receives Bitcoin, it gets added to this giant transparent ledger.
So anyone can see it. Anyone can see it. And because this record is distributed across a whole network of computers, it's incredibly secure, very difficult to tamper with. That's one of the key innovations, really, of Bitcoin.
Okay, I'm starting to see the appeal. No one entity can control it, and the transactions they're transparent, they're secure. But what gives Bitcoin value in the first place?
That's a great question. And it really gets at the heart of what money is, you know? Part of Bitcoin's value comes from its limited supply, that scarcity principle we talked about.
Yeah.
But it also derives value from the trust and belief of the people who use it.
So it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more people believe in it, the more valuable it becomes.
That's a great way to put it. And it's such a fascinating departure from traditional currencies, which
Right.
are backed by governments.
Right, right. Speaking of traditional currencies, your sources also dive into the investment side of Bitcoin. Some people are making a fortune, but others are losing big. It seems like a risky game.
It definitely has its risks. And your sources don't shy away from that. You know, Bitcoin's price is notoriously volatile. It can swing wildly in a short period of time.
One article mentioned Bitcoin reaching a high of $68,000.
Yeah,
That's mind-boggling.
it is.
But then it crashed. So what drives these huge price swings?
It's a complex mix of factors. Media attention, investor sentiment, regulatory news, even technological developments can play a role. One event that can cause a surge in price is something called a halving.
Halving, what's that?
So every 4 years, the reward for mining Bitcoin is cut in half.
Right.
This reduction in supply often leads to an increase in price. Historically, we've seen this happen.
Interesting. So understanding these market dynamics is crucial for anyone considering investing in Bitcoin. What about the practical side? How do you actually invest in Bitcoin?
Well, the first step is to choose a cryptocurrency exchange.
Okay.
It's like an online platform where you can buy, sell, and trade Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies.
There are a ton of exchanges out there. Some of your articles mention Coinbase, Kraken, Crypto.com.
Right?
How do I know which one's right for me?
That's where the research comes in. It's important to compare their fees, security measures, user interface, and the types of cryptocurrencies they offer. You know, think about your investment goals and your risk tolerance.
Right. It's not a decision to take lightly. Once you've chosen an exchange, you create an account, fund it, and then you can actually buy Bitcoin.
Yep, that's the basic process.
Okay.
And you don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin. You can buy fractions of one.
Oh, okay.
That makes it accessible even if you're starting with a small amount of money.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
But once you've bought Bitcoin, where do you keep it?
You need what's called a crypto wallet.
Okay.
Think of it like a digital bank account, specifically for storing your cryptocurrency.
Okay.
There are two main types: hot wallets that are connected to the internet and cold wallets that are offline. Cold wallets are generally considered more secure.
Okay, so hot wallets are convenient, but maybe a bit riskier,
That's right.
while cold wallets offer more security, but are less convenient for, like, frequent transactions.
Exactly. It's all about finding the right balance for your needs.
Yeah.
And it highlights another important aspect of Bitcoin: security.
Speaking of security, I keep hearing about this mysterious creator of Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto. No one seems to know who they are. Does that add to the mystique, or is it a cause for concern?
It's definitely added to the intrigue. But even though we don't know Satoshi's true identity, the technology itself is open source. It's been vetted by countless experts.
So the mystery remains, But the technology is transparent.
Precisely. And that transparency that's really what makes Bitcoin so fascinating. Now that we've covered the basics of Bitcoin and investing, let's explore how new Bitcoins are created through a process called mining.
Mining. That sounds like we're about to delve into some serious tech territory.
We are. But don't worry, we'll break it down in a way that makes sense. Think of Bitcoin mining like a global competition to solve complex math problems. Whoever solves the problem first gets rewarded with Bitcoin.
Okay, that's a bit over my head. Can we try another analogy?
Sure. Imagine a giant Sudoku puzzle that everyone's trying to solve. First person to find the correct solution gets a prize. But in the case of Bitcoin mining, the puzzle is incredibly complex.
Wow.
And it requires specialized computer hardware to solve.
So it's not something you can just do on your laptop.
Not anymore. In the early days of Bitcoin, yeah, you could mine using your personal computer. But as more people started mining, the difficulty increased, requiring more and more and more computing power.
So now it's a race to see who has the most powerful computers.
Essentially, yes. And that's where the environmental concerns come in. All that computing power requires a lot of electricity, which often comes from fossil fuels.
A downside we can't ignore.
Absolutely. And it's something to consider as we continue our deep dive into the world of Bitcoin.
All right, so we've covered the basics of Bitcoin, the thrill and risk of investing, and the energy-intensive process of mining. What's next on our Bitcoin journey?
Welcome back to your Bitcoin deep dive. We covered a lot of ground last time, from the basics of blockchain to the ins and outs of mining.
It's a lot to take in.
It really is. What's standing out to you? What's piqued your interest the most so far?
Honestly, it's the potential impact of Bitcoin on the world, you know? Some of these articles talk about it like it's going to revolutionize finance, but others warn about the risks, the downsides. It's a lot to process.
It's a great observation, and it's really at the heart of why Bitcoin is so captivating. It's not just a technology, it's a potential disruptor. It challenges our fundamental assumptions about money and power and control.
So you're saying it's more than just a way to make money.
Exactly. For centuries, we've relied on centralized institutions like governments and banks to control our financial systems. But Bitcoin offers an alternative. A decentralized system where no single entity has authority.
But can a decentralized system really work? I mean, wouldn't it be chaotic without someone in charge?
That's a question a lot of people have, and it's really one of the biggest experiments Bitcoin is conducting. The idea is that the blockchain itself, that transparent, immutable ledger, provides the rules and governance, not a central authority.
So it's like a self-governing financial system.
In a way, yes. And that has profound implications. One of the most promising aspects is the potential for greater financial inclusion.
Okay.
Billions of people around the world lack access to traditional banking services.
Right.
But with Bitcoin, all you need is a smartphone and an internet connection.
So it could empower individuals and communities who've been excluded from the traditional financial system.
Exactly. And it could also reduce the cost of transactions, especially for international remittances. Right now, sending money across borders can be incredibly expensive because of fees charged by banks and money transfer services.
But with Bitcoin, you're bypassing all those intermediaries.
That's the idea. It allows for peer-to-peer transactions, cutting out the middleman, and potentially saving people a significant amount of money.
That's a huge benefit, especially for those who rely on remittances to support their families back home. But are there any potential drawbacks to this decentralized approach?
There are certainly risks and challenges to consider. One concern is volatility. Bitcoin's price swings can be dramatic, making it risky for those who can't afford to lose money.
And what about regulation? If no government or central bank is in control, how do we ensure that Bitcoin is used responsibly, ethically?
That's a crucial question, and it's one that governments around the world are grappling with. Some countries are embracing Bitcoin while others are taking a more cautious approach.
So it's a bit of a wild west out there with a patchwork of regulations and approaches.
It's an evolving landscape, and that uncertainty is part of what makes Bitcoin both exciting and challenging. Another concern is security. While the blockchain itself is incredibly secure, there are vulnerabilities elsewhere.
Like what?
Well, if you lose your private key, that secret code that gives you access to your Bitcoin wallet, you lose your Bitcoin. There's no bank to call to recover your funds.
Right.
And there are also risks of hacking and scams.
So it's crucial to choose a reputable exchange and take steps to protect your Bitcoin.
Absolutely. Security is paramount in the world of cryptocurrency. But despite these risks, there's a growing sense that Bitcoin and blockchain technology are here to stay.
One of your articles called it a technological revolution. Do you think that's an accurate assessment?
It's certainly a revolutionary technology. It has the potential to disrupt not just finance, but many other industries as well. Well, the blockchain itself has applications far beyond cryptocurrency. It's being explored for things like supply chain management, where it can track products from origin to consumer, ensuring transparency and authenticity.
That's fascinating.
And it's being used to create secure voting systems where each vote is recorded on the blockchain, making it tamper-proof and auditable. The possibilities are truly vast.
It sounds like we're just scratching the surface of what blockchain technology can do.
Exactly, and that's what makes this whole space so exciting. We're witnessing the birth of a new technology with the potential to reshape our world in profound ways. But it's important to approach it with both enthusiasm and a healthy dose of skepticism.
So be curious, do your research, and don't believe everything you read.
Wise words. Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, let's shift gears a bit and talk about the philosophical implications of Bitcoin. It's a topic that often gets overlooked in the midst of all the technical and financial discussions.
I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
You see, Bitcoin isn't just a technology, it's an idea. It's a challenge to the status quo, a statement about individual autonomy and the distribution of power.
Okay, I'm starting to see where you're going with this.
Think about it. Bitcoin offers a vision of a world where individuals have more control over their own money, where they don't have to rely on intermediaries like banks or governments. It's a philosophy of decentralization, of
Yeah.
empowerment.
But isn't that a bit utopian? I mean, can we really function without any central authority?
That's the big question. And it's one that Bitcoin is forcing us to confront. It's a grand experiment. And the outcome is still uncertain. But regardless of whether Bitcoin ultimately succeeds or fails, it's sparked a conversation
Yeah.
about the nature of money, the role of government, and the balance of power in society.
Wow, it's amazing to think that this digital currency has sparked such profound discussions.
It is. And it's a reminder that technology is never neutral. It always has social, political, and philosophical implications. And as we continue to explore the world of Bitcoin, it's crucial to engage with these deeper questions.
Okay, so we've explored the potential benefits and risks of Bitcoin, its impact on finance and other industries, and even its philosophical underpinnings.
Yeah.
What's next on our Bitcoin adventure? We've gone deep on the technology, the potential, the risks of Bitcoin. But you know what's really got me thinking?
What's that?
Those philosophical questions you brought up last time. This idea of Bitcoin as a challenge to like the way we think about money and power.
It's definitely something that gets lost a lot in the headlines about, price fluctuations and investment strategies, but it really does represent a fundamental shift in perspective.
So help me unpack this a bit. How does Bitcoin challenge our traditional notions of value?
Well, I mean, for centuries, we've associated money with something tangible, right? Gold, silver, paper currency. But Bitcoin is purely digital. Its value comes from a combination of factors. Its limited supply, the cryptography that secures it, and most importantly, the network of people who believe in it and use it.
So it's like a collective belief system.
Yeah.
The more people trust in Bitcoin, the more value it holds.
That's a big part of it. And it raises fascinating questions about the nature of value itself. Is it inherent in an object, or is it a shared social construct, an agreement we make with each other?
That's getting pretty philosophical. But I see the connection. Bitcoin forces us to rethink what we consider valuable in a digital world.
Exactly. And it's not just about money. Bitcoin also challenges our ideas about trust and authority. Traditionally, we've placed our trust in these centralized institutions, governments, banks, to manage our finances.
But Bitcoin takes that power away from those institutions and distributes it across this decentralized network.
Precisely. And that shift in power dynamics has the potential to be both liberating and unsettling. Some people see it as a path toward greater freedom, autonomy, while others worry about the lack of oversight, regulation.
It's like a social experiment on a global scale.
It is.
And it raises a lot of ethical questions, too. Some of the articles you sent touch on the potential for Bitcoin to be used for, illicit activities like money laundering or funding criminal enterprises.
Yeah, that's a valid concern. The anonymity and decentralization that make Bitcoin appealing to some also make it attractive to those operating outside the law.
So how do we address those risks without stifling the innovation and potential benefits of this technology?
It's a tough balancing act. We need to develop ethical frameworks and regulatory approaches that, that mitigate the risks while still fostering responsible use and innovation. And it requires open and honest conversations involving technologists, policymakers, ethicists, and the public.
It sounds like Bitcoin is more than just a technology or a financial instrument. It's like it's a catalyst for a much broader conversation about the future of our society.
I completely agree. It forces us to confront these fundamental questions: power, trust, value, and ethics in a rapidly changing world. And it challenges us to think critically, creatively about how we want to shape that future.
So where do we go from here? What does the future hold for Bitcoin?
That's the million-dollar question, and nobody knows for sure. It's possible that Bitcoin will become a mainstream form of payment, seamlessly integrated into our daily lives. Or it could remain a niche asset, primarily used by, those seeking an alternative to traditional financial systems.
It's a bit like we're standing at a crossroads, unsure of which path Bitcoin will take.
Great analogy, and perhaps it will take multiple paths, becoming both a mainstream and a parallel system, serving different needs at different purposes. The beauty of it is the future of Bitcoin is still being written.
And we all have a role to play in shaping that future.
Exactly. By being informed, engaged, and thoughtful, we can help guide this technology in a direction that benefits humanity as a whole.
Well, this deep dive has certainly given me a lot to think about. I feel like I've barely scratched the surface of this complex and fascinating world.
And that's the beauty of it. There's always more to learn, more to explore. Bitcoin is a constantly evolving phenomenon, and the journey of discovery never truly ends.
Thanks for being such a fantastic guide on this Bitcoin adventure. I feel like I've gained a much deeper understanding of not just the technology itself, but its potential to reshape our world.
It's been my pleasure. And remember, this is just the beginning of your exploration. Keep asking questions, keep learning, and keep an open mind. The world of Bitcoin is full of surprises.